And we are live. Good afternoon to another OSR tabletop live stream with DM Bloodworth. I am obviously DM Bloodworth, Richard, first name, and of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review, which is a YouTube channel that I run and create content for. And I'm kind of continuing my series from vacation. So this is my Site B, basically, and that means that it is Site B stands for the Bahamas. So I am at the Atlantis resort in Nassau, Bahamas, and unfortunately, the last 2 days we were kind of rained in during a tropical storm that kind of tore through here. Luckily, no damage or anything like that, but basically just kept us in the hotel and within the interior of the grounds for virtually the last 2 days. Worked out well for my daughter who had to do a final exam yesterday online. So luckily, we still had internet connection. Um, Furthermore, so I've been doing these. I've been doing these live streams throughout. This is the third of the weekend. Unfortunately, I can't give you any real notice of when they're going to go up, when I'm going to begin the live stream, and I don't know how long they're going to last because I tend to come in off the beach about an hour and a half earlier than my family. So when they look to come in, probably around an hour from now. I'm hoping, knock on wood. Um, I'll have to shut this down. But I wanted to talk about again the question of what to do, and I'll put this question on here. Um, what to do when players don't want to adventure, and this is probably an age-old issue that dungeon masters, both experienced and inexperienced dungeon masters, have probably faced throughout their experience in the hobby, is that, and it's not exclusive to D&D. It's probably encounter this in every single genre and game system that's out there. Um, when you have a single player or a group of players who don't want to really do very much during the game session, right? They come to the table, they sit down, and they're not really feeling like doing anything beyond just staying in the town or the city and doing some shopping, perhaps leveling up, and they're kind of shying away from getting into any of the adventure hooks that you're dropping to them. So this has been a question that's been bouncing around, over the last 2 weeks amongst amongst my group of individuals that I interact with within the hobby, mostly on YouTube and in some cases on Discord with my own players and such. And this is something that I have encountered, although not generally as abrupt as it might seem. Like I've never had a group of players come to the table and just say, no matter what, we're not going to do anything tonight. We just want to do leveling up and some shopping and requisitioning of equipment, and then we're going to end the session and leave. Never had that happen. Um, I've never had, well, I shouldn't say never. I have had a player, let's say a single player, who just doesn't seem to be looking to engage um, with the rest of the players as they're, doing their thing, or even on the adventure, just very quiet, very disconnected from what's going on. And I have experienced that. But again, it's something very rare because I try as a game master to keep my players engaged, right? I try to encourage them to participate, and I've always made it where there's certainly an advantage to participating, whether it's even just verbally participating, um, making some decisions for the group, or saying, well, I'm going to test out this thing, or whatever. Um, I've had players who said, I really don't feel like I'm not going to cast any spells in this situation. I'm just going to lay back and wait to see how things turn out, and then end up going through the entire scenario without having cast a single spell, because they're afraid of spending their spells for a time when they really truly going to need it. So there's various times that players may um, not engage to the level that you're looking to do, or hoping that they will, and so you have to be prepared for that kind of thing. And it's a good idea, in my opinion, it's a good idea to have some things that you know about each of the player characters that are being run. And by virtue of that, by the player running that player character. But it's a good idea to have certain things that you know that that player character would be interested in doing or compelled to do, and throw that at them. Let them become aware of this situation. Let them become aware of this item that they've been looking for. Let them become aware of this contact that may lead to other things along their interest level. And that's another way, I think, to pull them in. Um, think about the earliest times that you were running adventures for this group, and pull some of those tidbits from way, way back when, let's say, and throw that out there to the whole party, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Let me let us go look into that. Don't you remember that? I'll give you an example from my own group. Don't you remember that half elven assassin that we encountered back in like week 8, and it is now week 99? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, we remember that. We never really did anything with that character. We didn't really engage with her and find out what her deal was. The only thing that we suspected was that she was an assassin, and through information that they gathered about her. But now they hear a whisper that she is in the general area, and now they're going to be like, let's see what's going on with this individual, and they will reminisce all the way back, all of those many, many months and even over a year, to that NPC that they never engaged with them, and you got them hooked. All right, you're going to bring them into that, and it's collective interest. So you're going to bring likely everybody into trying to figure that out. So that's another thing that I would recommend doing, is to dig back deeper into the player's experience at your table, and bring those little stories that never went very much anywhere, and kind of bring those back into the forefront. And so that's something that will become both an interest for yourself, which is another really great motivator for the players, because when the players realize that their game master is also really interested in this, they know that the fun will follow. All right, the really interesting stuff is about to happen, and so you do that as well. Now, I know I've always done things like when the player characters are in a town, and they're just, let's say, they're in the town for two purposes. They're in the town to level up, because I use AD&D First Edition as an example here, and in that edition, player characters have to train for an entire week to go up a single level. And so there tends to be some downtime in a town so that they can level up. And I don't have that downtime be a dead time. So things are happening during those 7 days or so. And um, there are potential events that can take place that are connected to what they're already doing. There are potential events that can take place that have nothing to do with what they were already what campaign they were already involved with, and it or adventure I should say, that they were already involved with, and now this becomes something that could sidetrack them and again capture some more interest into actually engaging with what's going on. Now, a fellow YouTuber, OGGM, actually explained this in the best line, that I did not think of. So I give him full credit for this when he said, "If your players don't want to adventure, bring the adventure to them," or something along those lines. And it's an absolute truth, right? If everyone at the table is kind of just not engaged, bring that engagement to them. All right, let me just see. No, I'm going to remind me later. Sorry about that. Telephone call coming in. So anytime that your whole table has decided, I really don't want to do anything during this session, when you're all sitting there either live or on the video screen, and on your virtual tabletop or what have you. I've never experienced this. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain the best tips for this, because I've not personally experienced it. But here's some ideas. Bring the adventure to them, as the OGGM had basically stated in his video on this topic. And what that means is that while they're sitting in the tavern, have some kind of an event take place that ends up dragging them into it, right? Have a nemesis that they've developed over time make a strike on them. Now, I've done these things, but not because my players weren't looking to engage in anything. I had these kind of events happen because my campaign, I run my campaign as a living, breathing world, right? It's things just keep on rolling forward, whether they engaged with it or not. And there were both positive and negative consequences for their actions or their inactions. So my players are very much aware that the world is going to keep on rolling forward. That is the campaign, is that, the campaign is the world. So individual player characters can drop out for a variety of reasons, even getting killed. And the campaign world keeps on rolling forward. But that's an important memory point for all of the rest of the player characters. And it actually might be an important event for other NPCs that you can bring on later on, in the length of your campaign, and have those player characters or those NPCs introduced to the rest of the party. And that brings them into another maybe series of adventures, or it brings them a level of knowledge that they didn't have before about something that they were trying to discover. And it just keeps everything moving forward. Or it can move it sideways, or potentially even backwards, right? If you have a negative consequence and the players have to now go back and fix something that they had screwed up along the way. I've done that several times in my long-running campaign, where the players realize that, hey, you know what? Something we didn't do has now become a bigger problem, and we're kind of getting blamed for not having taken care of it when we potentially had the opportunity to do so. And we care about our reputation. And so they go and they take care of that. There are ways to bring the players' interest level up so that they do engage, and they do want to adventure. Now, like I said, I have not really encountered this as a major issue, but perhaps some of you have, and I'd like to. Now, people are welcome to come in the comments section, or they're even welcome to join in the chat if they want to relay an experience that they've had. I know that this is kind of a weird time during the day, but even after the fact, once it's no longer live and it's posted on my channel, you're certainly welcome to go in there in the comments section and leave comments, and then I will pick up on those comments along the way and address them. I might even address them in a follow-up video later on after I get back from vacation. So again, if you want to join, you're welcome to. The link is in the chat, and I'm going to continue forward with some other ideas that I can either think of, or ideas that I've experienced as either a player or a game master to talk about when players really don't want to adventure. So actually, let me talk about when as a DM or a GM, you might get burnt out from it, and you just don't want to, I really don't want to jump into something that is going to be, a big deal. Maybe we're running out of time or something, and you want to kind of slow the characters down a bit, so that you can think forward as to what's going to go on within the campaign going forward as well. You can, as a GM or a dungeon master, you can have them go to a town for that kind of R&R, and basically them do some carousal moves. Oh, we have someone joining in, and let's see. Let me see how to do this. This is for someone doing this not on the computer. Add to the stream.
How are you doing, sir?
There it goes. Hey, DM James, how's it going?
Hey, one army got to another.
Hanging
How
out.
You doing, man?
Yep, it's good. I'm on vacation, so down here in the Bahamas, and coming back tomorrow. Should be landing sometime tomorrow around 3 p.m. in New York, and hope to get home by 6 p.m. and get back into just the regular stream of things, I'd say. But it's been a good vacation, but I'm kind of glad that it's coming to an end. A week is a long time.
That's me with every vacation. It's like,
yeah,
you show up and you're super excited to see everything, and then after about a week or so, you're just like, ugh.
It's nice to get home, especially like by the last night and everything. It's like, it's certainly nice to get home. So
I was listening to what you're saying about it, and recently, over the last I guess it's been 2 or 3 months, I've been running the Enemy Within campaign for Warhammer, and I really haven't had that issue, because I'm running a pre-written campaign that has like 1 million moving parts. But when I was running OSC, if the players just want to hang out in the tavern, I would definitely have the orcs attack the castle they were in or something. Because the world, like you said, I agree with everything you said. The world keeps moving regardless of what the players are doing. And it's just the way it is,
Yeah.
I thought I'd pop on and just say hi too. I haven't really talked to you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and I mean, it's it's also not something that I've really experienced to a great extent, and it's I think it's probably something that and I'm going to say it. I don't think old school really had this problem in the past. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the, we were just so excited to play and we wanted to do things. It was, it's like we wanted to fight stuff. We wanted to discover treasures. We wanted to, find new patrons that are going to give us even a better line on more adventures and more dangerous adventures and everything. I can't think of any time when I was with my first group from 70, from 77 to let's say 87 or 89 actually, from 77 to 89, and we used to play 6 days a week. And there was never a time where we sat at the table and looked to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I know exactly what you're saying, because when I was running AD&D First Edition, say back in '85 to up to '89 when I joined the Army, with a couple of other games in between, we played some Gamma World and some Traveler. You get what I'm saying, though. I would have players calling me or talking to me in the middle of the week about, hey, can my character do this? And could my character do that? And I don't know if maybe some of these newer players, I assume this is mostly a 5e issue, because I'm not seeing it when I run Old School Essentials or something. The players show up at the table and they generally know what they want to do. And I mean, and in the Warhammer game I'm running right now, they know what they want to do, and they're calling me or sending me texts in the middle of the week to ask, hey, I still got like 200 XP. Could I learn this? So I think I have had one game where everybody just stared at each other for a minute, but after I threw something at them, they came out of it and started running them. But not AD&D though. That was third edition D&D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
I really don't think that was a, I wouldn't necessarily think it's just a 5e thing either. I think it's more of a modern thing, more so than game system specific. But yeah, I mean, it was just never had it, and I don't think it's a reflection of, oh, you just don't have experience. And it's like, no, it's just, it was a different gaming culture. Clearly it was a different gaming culture.
Well, let's be honest. Zoomers are weird. I mean, I'm the father of a couple of millennials, and I thought the things they were into were weird, like Tokyo Hotel and all these weird bands. But
right.
I mean, you can tell Zoomers are weird by the memes that they put out, which are like, it's like, is this supposed to be funny? I mean, have you seen that most recent Zoomer thing where some girl wears whatever and makes noises? It's like,
oh yeah,
Apple,
yeah.
It's like
they're playing the NPCs in like an anime, right? Where they
right.
just kind of kick around strangely because the animations are so glitchy or whatever. Yeah, I've seen that, and it's like, all right, that's kind of strange, right? Yeah, you're probably right. They have some really weird. They have a weird internet culture. That's for certain.
Right.
And if they're bringing that kind of an aesthetic, for lack of better word,
that weird
gaming
energy,
table, yeah, it's like or expectation or whatever. I think it's an expectation disconnect as well. They don't expect to adventure. They're not coming to the table with an expectation to adventure. They're coming to the table with the expectation of socializing with whatever they're looking to socialize with. It could be the other players, it could be some NPCs, it could be whatever. But it is not, discovery, combat, bring treasure home kind of thing that I think a lot of us were, kind of brought up in the hobby. And I mean, it could be argued that that's kind of boring for them, just as we would find sitting in a tavern chatting or listening to a group of bards sing along and doing nothing else but bar hopping is kind of boring for us, or finding the ingredients for an onion soup, which was what was that? That was the Radiant Citadel, one of the Radiant Citadel
Because the
adventures
two
was
cooks were
literally,
fighting, so you had
yeah.
to talk to them into sharing ingredients so they can make soup or something. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, how is that Dungeons and Dragons? It's just
I'll
not.
tell you, it's
Let
not.
me get to something here. So, so Loot, welcome, by the way. I don't recall having seen your name in my streams or channel before, so welcome. I run a game for a local youth club. How I quell Sticky Feet is that I give each character 2 turns, then I roll a d20 high good, rumor of treasure, or low or a map. Low bad, raiders come and storm and the storm comes. Yeah. So basically, like I said, the OGGM said if they don't want an adventure, let the adventure come to them, and that can be those like simple hooks, throwing out to them. If they've rejected the 3 or 4 hooks that you've thrown at them already, throw a couple more at them until, or dig deep back in your memory, like I was saying, if the group has been together for quite some time, and pull something from the past. I think that will instantly get them engaged when you remind them of something that they had encountered months and months ago.
Like a bad guy they fought that got away.
Yeah, or just like I mentioned, maybe before you were listening, my player characters encountered what they assumed to be an assassin, and they correctly assumed that she was an assassin back in like either the 8th or the 10th week that we were playing, and we're now in week 98 or 99. I think week 99. And if I fed them a rumor that this half elf, female half elf assassin, or this female half elf that people were suspicious about her motivations, and they described her in the same way that they remembered her from way back then, it would lasso them right in. I mean, they'd instantly engage in it. All right, because it was a character that really captured their imagination.
I like what Doodle Squatch says there, and I agree with him. It looks like they're having bad internet in the Bahamas.
If we are still live, I am I'm kind of far off. So I'm in the Bahamas, and it looks like I'm still live. Is someone still getting me put in the comment section that you're still receiving?
Yeah,
like James
I can hear you
as well.
Your screen is frozen.
So
yeah, you're having a major lag spike is what's going down. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I do remember the first time I had some 5e players show up at my table, and one of the guys failed his saving throw against yellow mold and died. And the 5e players are like, they were shocked. You know what I mean? They were like, he's dead? I was like, yeah, he's dead. He's got to make a new character. And they're like, just like that? And I was like, just like that. And it threw them off for a minute, but I'll tell you what, those two people still play in my game. They're playing Warhammer now. One of them is playing a Knight Squire, and the other one is playing an outlaw, I think, a brigand, because Warhammer is a career-driven game more than like D&D is. So, but yeah, it took them a minute though, because they're so used to the 5e style. And I mean, and I hate to like hate on 5e. I really do, because I feel like, it's like beating up somebody in a wheelchair. But it just, you spend as much time untraining 5e players all their bad habits as you do teaching them whatever game you're playing. Here he is. And by the way, what's up, Ducato? How you doing, bro? You were upside
Okay,
down.
I lost my connection here at the at the resort here. I had to re-queue my internet connection. So let's see. So sorry about that. And let's see. Considering we had like a major storm roll through here the last 2 days, it's not surprising. So let's see. Doodle Squatch, another new person. I haven't encountered you before, so welcome to Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. Welcome to my live stream. And this is DM James. You can find DM James on his own channel as well.
I've seen Doodle Squatch before on my channel.
Yeah, so good to see him here. And if old school players refused to adventure, it was because they were effing with the DM. Yeah, and
right,
old school DMs, right. they will let you find out real quickly. It's like, yeah, you can F around, but you will find out very quickly. Critical Role
Nakato says he switched to Castles and Crusades about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having a good time with it. Yeah, Castles and Crusades is a great game. It's like an in-between AD&D and 3rd edition game. And yes. I'll tell you what, if you use critical hits, it can be absolutely brutal.
Yes, it's interesting too. I've had a great deal of fun using those in my group, and there's so much flavor text to those, and I've seen other ones around too. If you're going to use critical hit charts and critical fumble charts and everything, find ones that add a lot of flavor text to the conditions that are caused and such. They don't even have to be devastating amount of damage. They just have to be really interesting stuff. Like I've had, and this is direct from Castles and Crusades, I've had players cut off 4 fingers. I've had players lose their teeth, bite off their tongues, on accident, completely destroy their eyes, or an eye in one case where, requiring a restoration spell. Just a number, plus a number of, potential, instant death kind of fails or critical hits on them. Although I let them do 1 Constitution save when that occurs, and if they do survive, they come out with 0 hit points and need the time to recover. So there's a lot of nuance that you can include in there that, believe it or not, really doesn't discourage them from entering combat. It makes them just be more on the edge of their seats for the combat, which I think keeps on bringing them back as well. So, don't ever think that your players have a low capacity for challenge. Always assume that they have an untapped capacity for challenge, and your job is to tap into that, and to keep on and to build them up so that they're not so much afraid of um, that challenge, even if it means that their character can be killed. So that's definitely something that I think that you can play around with in order to get your players engaged. So let's see. So Penty, also welcome. Another name haven't seen before, and for some reason it's not. There it is. So a good example of the change would be to compare Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 CRPG to the current Baldur's Gate 3. The current game is all about romance and cutscenes. Nobody cares about the treasures. Yeah, so that's really yeah. Thank you, DM James. That's the player's handbook, and that's all that you really need to play. Although the Monsters and Treasures is kind of important too, but you only need 2 books to play Castles and Crusades. You don't actually need the DM's guide, although it's nice.
I just love that they did the homage art.
Absolutely,
So I
yes,
had to get it. I
yeah.
mean,
I'm waiting for the manual of the planes to come out for Castles and Crusades.
but
I just picked up 2 new
it's
books
a
for
good
them
game.
as well. So from Loot Loop, yep, he agrees. Takato, hey, how's it going? I got to check out your most recent video on your Castles and Crusades campaign, and you were showing off your oh my gosh, your figures and your dungeon layout, whatever. I can't think of the word for it right now. But your set pieces, let's say. So we play West Marches style campaign, and it's been awesome for my group. We had our 20th session yesterday. Yeah, that's what I want to catch up on. Now I've tried West Marches also, and having a completely open world kind of a thing. And the one thing I don't like about that is having to have them return to the place where they started off every single time, or some place where they can put up for like in a town, because in the wilderness it's too dangerous for them to survive overnight, or at least that's what it's supposed to be done, or how it's supposed to be run. And I wasn't too crazy about that aspect of it. But anyway, oh, it's beautiful,
I
beautiful
need to
art.
check out Ducato's stuff.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he has awesome miniatures. Yeah, I know you both like the painting and all that stuff, and he
Yeah, I'm
has,
building some Plague Monk Skavens currently.
yeah, and he has a lot of terrain. That's what I was. He has a lot of terrain,
Nice.
figures and stuff. Really, really nice stuff. And he has some supersized figs too. Um, so that's another thing. That's the kind of stuff that I don't have the skill to paint, although I have to get back to doing some painting again. But I don't have the skill to paint it to that level, and those figures, which I think he has a lot of. At least I'm assuming, unless he's painting them all himself. Um, uh, he might have some Dwarven Forge stuff, or at least, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Takata, if that's not Dwarven Forge stuff, but that stuff is just phenomenally expensive too. Um, but I know DM James, you're into Warhammer and stuff, and that's an expensive hobby as well. So let's see. That return takes some getting used to. I love cliffhanger endings, but they don't work in West March. Yeah. Where it really shines is taking the frustration out of scheduling sessions. Yeah. So when you don't have to worry about, I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. Like in my, I'm going to actually do a video on Sunday, kind of talking about my setup for my Castles and Crusades campaign, where it's really designed to be like an Adventurers League kind of thing, like a la what you see in Goblin Slayer, right? Where the players will go in and there's there's a board and they have a token to mark their rank or their level basically, and certain adventures they will have a selection of certain adventures that they can go on, and then they will then go out there and run those things. And it doesn't matter, like I currently have a player group of 11 players, potentially 13, and we can mix and match whoever shows up on Sunday or whoever shows up on Tuesday night. That's when I'm going to be running those sessions. And and like I said, they can mix and match. A player can come for both sessions if they want to. And I'm not so much worried about the leveling being an issue, because I think in most cases, Castles and Crusades, level differences aren't as extreme as they are in, let's say, AD&D First Edition. And so in many cases, it's not going to be, other than just having an additional hit points, it's not going to be an additional basic to hit or anything like that, unless you're a fighter, where you get them every level. So definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, so you do have some, I know some of it is Dwarven Forge. I have
Whereas the game I'm playing, if an enemy rolls high enough, they could just kill you. Because characters have very few wounds, and if they roll a crit hit, and then, I mean, if you ever played MERPs, it's basically like that, you know? And that makes the players think a lot more. I mean, my players are loving this game. Yeah. And because it's so deadly, though. That's why they love it. And of course, one guy, this story still gets told every game night. The first time he encountered a demon, he had to make a cool check and he fumbled it. And his character pissed himself and was stunned for a round and couldn't do anything. And all the other players now kind of mock him a little bit about that. Just a little bit about the whole calling poopy pants and stuff. I mean, right. And he didn't take any damage. It was just a hit to the pride, I guess, that he took.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens.
Yeah, so Warhammer RPG is awesome too. It's on your bucket list. Yes. Yeah, it's definitely awesome. Definitely awesome stuff. Now, the last time I played Warhammer was probably its first edition. So I want to say that's like mid 80s. And there was something about it. I thought it was too much of a miniatures game for me. Like just in the writing style and the stat blocks and everything, it just struck me as too much of a war game than an actual, RPG. And so that's why I didn't really like it that much. Although the art was phenomenal and the book's layout and all that stuff, I really like that aspect of it.
You're not wrong. They had Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and then somebody said, "Is there some way we can convert this over?" I mean, you have almost the same exact attribute line in the role-playing game as you do in the battle game. So
yeah, that's but you know what? It's something that I did. I did try back in the 80s, and I don't have a copy of it, so it's something I'm going to probably have to pick up just to put on the shelf, because it is something I played, even though I didn't very much enjoy it, and so it's something I should have on my shelf. and just to be able to say, yeah, you know, and I played this back when I was, 14, 15 years old. And, even though I might not have liked it, as much at the time, it was still a really important piece of tabletop role playing history, which is beyond a doubt, Warhammer is a major segment of our hobby.
They were the company. Games Workshop was the company that Gary Gygax gave the rights to distribute Dungeons and Dragons in England to.
Yeah.
They got their start, and then they start doing their own stuff. But I would say the game I played the most back when you're talking, and I do have it, thankfully, other than AD&D, was Middle-earth role playing.
Yes, and I have my copy of that
the
too,
hell out of that game.
Yeah, that we liked for the setting material more so than the game system, and so we did a lot of conversion from MERPs to AD&D, and
Nice.
never really, like I said, it was a very, very difficult system back then, and it was just, I mean, we didn't mind so much numbers crunching, but Rollmaster and things of their ilk at that time. I mean, Rollmaster is probably one of the worst games I've ever played.
Chartmaster.
Yeah, like what they had, the different books, like they had the Arms book, and the character creation in Rollmaster was the most tedious thing I've ever done, and to the point that I just left hundreds of points on the table. I was like, I don't even care anymore. I'm tired of creating I'm 3 hours in and I'm still character creation. I don't want to spend any more points. I just want to play. And then once I played, I was like, the combat system was like, all right, I rolled this. All right, check these two other lines, and then roll on this chart. Blah, blah, blah. And when all was said and done, I did actually hit, but I did 0 damage. I was like, what the, it was like the one attack resolution took about 15 minutes looking at 5 different charts or whatever it was. I mean, it just to me seems so tedious. I was like, I don't know how anybody could have gotten through to actually playing this game.
What we did is all of the players had their own Xerox copy of the crit charts that were applicable to the weapons they were carrying. So, you didn't have to flip through the book all the time. They already had their charts. But you're not wrong. What you're saying is not wrong. The Rollmaster system is it's a special system. It really is, because it just does whatever it wants to do, and you just gotta look at a bunch of charts. However, I love the magic in that system. How you can pick the different, and then you level up, and say you pick the healing art, and then you get tissue law, blood law, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's all the different things you can do as you level it up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, too many charts though.
Yeah.
They are supposedly coming out with another one.
Yeah. So let's see. What do you guys think about games in which the players make all or most of the rolls? I don't care either way. I'm not invested in dice rolling.
Yeah, I believe they call that player-facing games.
I think in AD&D, players do make most of the rolls. I mean, collectively, certainly they make most of the rolls. I'm trying to think of where I certainly wouldn't like a game system where the DM is making most of the rolls. That to me is not what it's meant, because then the players are just sitting there and just. I don't like systems that there's a lot of rolling either. And I wouldn't probably like systems where there's no rolling whatsoever. So I think that for the most part, like AD&D or Castles and Crusades, Castles and Crusades a little bit more streamlined. Um, I think that game system kind of strikes the best balance as far as I'm concerned. Um, it's less dice rolling than DCC, and I know that Dungeon Crawl Classics is a very popular system. Um, Castles and Crusades and even AD&D has less dice rolling than that. Um, so, yeah, but I'd like to try systems where the players are doing most of the rolling. I think that most of them are that way. But I see that
A lot of them are that way. But let me tell you something. Some players will take it personal when you start making them roll for attacks against them.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, no, I would never let them do that.
But that's how a lot of player-facing games work. The player rolls all the dice, and depending on what the player rolls determines how much damage they take.
No, I don't like doing that.
That's the whole dungeon world. It's like the target number is 10. And if they roll really low, they take damage, but the monster doesn't. And if they roll really high, they do damage, but don't take any. And anything in between is everybody takes damage.
That's weird.
But in AD&D, let me tell you, telling one of your players the orc is attacking you, roll. And they look at you like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's just
like, I don't want to roll for him. He's the bad guy.
Yeah, I let my players, like when they fumble, I let them roll on the fumble chart. They make that roll, so that they can see this is what I rolled, kind of thing. I roll in plain sight for them as well. But we're playing online, so we're playing on a virtual tabletop.
Right.
So I like all rolls, or virtually all rolls, to be public. I don't do surprise rolls in front of them. And I don't do random encounter rolls in front of them. Sometimes I just decide, no, this would be a good spot to have a random encounter. Not so much a random encounter anymore, but sometimes I'll throw an encounter at them, and I don't want to be limited by the die. Other times I'm kind of, just let it happen if it's going to happen, and not if it's not.
I think that's just being a good DM, Sometimes
you
happen and you make it happen.
Yeah, you have to make it happen, exactly. And that's what that's what kind of came out of this whole discussion, I think, was, when players don't want to adventure, what are some tips and that we can come up with? And that's one of them that I would come up with is, when you're DMing, especially if you're kind of new to doing it, don't be afraid to just make those judgments along the way. It's like rulings over rules, and your judgment, make things happen. Whether, I'm not saying you're going to fudge dice rolls, but decide not to roll. You know what I'm saying? It's like, make the decision not to roll and let something happen because you need it to happen in order to kind of move things along. So I think that's a different thing than fudging dice rolls.
I would rather,
so let's see.
If I were a player, I would rather the DM just say something happens than for them to fudge a dice roll and say that something happens.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Like I would much rather the DM just be like, I'm the DM and you guys just got attacked by orcs.
Yeah. Like
and that's just what's going on, Yeah.
If I have a certain scenario where I really want the players to be caught by surprise, just for the situation, the scenario that they're about to enter, it just makes sense that they would be surprised unless they actively said, before they even entered. I'm going to look to the left, you know, as soon as I step into the room. Um, I might not necessarily roll, you know, roll the dice to see if they were legitimately surprised. I might just let them be surprised. And that to me is a decision that's not fudging dice. You know, you're setting up the scene the way that it makes the most sense to happen.
Well, as the DM, you can determine at any time if any roll is even possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you can rule that there's just no possible way, even if they're looking, there's just no possible way they're going to notice the thing. So again, you're not cheating and you're not rule zeroing. You're playing by the rules.
Yeah.
As the DM, you can just say, I'm sorry, there was just no way you could have saw it. You could have rolled anything other than a nat 20. Even a nat 20, you couldn't have done it. And then they're like, oh, okay. Or if you're playing Castles and Crusades, you could have rolled. No, Castles and Crusades is still rolling high.
Yeah.
I play AD&D a lot of times. For a lot of stuff, I do roll under an attribute.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, sometimes they make an attribute check and that's rolling low.
Right. But yeah, you just determine that whatever is ambushing them is way better at hiding than they are at seeing. That's fair. That's fair play for a D&D game for sure.
Let me just check to see if my family is on the move. Normally around this time is when they're. I don't think that.
Would you take your wife and your daughter?
My wife and daughters, yeah, we're here we're actually here as a party of 36.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I see them on the move. So they're making their way. They're still a little bit of ways. They're still about 20 minutes away. But yeah. So yeah, this is a vacation we do just about every year. You know, we come down here, although this is going to probably be one of our last times because this resort is just not what it used to be. You know, these past couple of years, it never really quite kept up with, you know, with the times and such. As this used to be known as, oh my gosh, what was his name? He used to be a talk show host in the mornings. Not Phil Donahue, Merv Griffin. This used to be Merv Griffin golf course and such, you know what I'm saying? So before it became the Atlantis, you know, and it became the Atlantis back in like the 80s or something like that. So this place has been around for, you know, forever, you know, probably since the early 70s or so. And it's, you know, it's kind of showing it's where it's still nice, but it's not like it used to be. Hey, Ducato, so you got your copy of Weird Frontiers. Mine came as one book. It is a beast. Yes, it is a beast. It's 900 pages of materials. Mine came split in two books, but yeah, it is a massive, massive book. And that's something I am running at my convention that I'm going to in September. And if it goes really well, I am going to most likely run that at Rising Phoenix, which I know, Ducato, you said you might try to get to that one in Milton. I think it's Milton, Massachusetts. So that'll be in April. So yeah, definitely looking to run that at least twice. I might in Rising Phoenix. I might run. Blade Runner again too, because that was also a great system to run at a convention. Yeah, I hope you make that one. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
actually gonna
I never really got to run it. I own it, but I never got to run it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun running that. It definitely was. It was a lot of fun running that system. Um, and again, it's a kind of system. So here, that's a great example for what we're talking about here with, players that don't necessarily have to or want to engage in combat. Um, the group that I ran it with, they had just one combat, and it was a fist fight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was the climax of the whole session was a fist fight. Oh, and it worked perfectly well. And I mean, it the whole story and everything. I mean, sure, there would have been opportunities for them to have shootouts and stuff like that, but just based on the choices that they made and the places where they engaged and the line that they kind of followed through to the end, they ended up, really just having that one combat, and even they were amazed. They were like, "Holy cow, we just played for 3.5 hours. We did tons of investigation, tons of questioning, tons of intimidation, tons of chasing, and following more clues and this and that. And the whole thing ended with just one combat, and it was a fist fight." I was like, it's just the way that you guys, created the scope of the thing. So if you have players who don't want to necessarily do combat, there are game systems out there that are designed to be more investigatory. I mean, Call of Cthulhu, you could basically say is a very combat light thing as well, because if you do get involved in the combat, you're most likely going to die, and you know what I'm saying. So it's going to be real
If you're
short.
fighting anything that's any more powerful than maybe a deep one or a cultist,
Yeah,
you're going
you're
to have
most likely,
problems.
and it really is meant to be an investigation more so than a combat RPG, because most combats you're not going to survive.
You might be surprised to hear that the campaign I'm running currently was designed mostly to be an investigation as well.
Mm.
Like, my players typically do not get into a lot of combats in a night because it's all about them trying to figure out who in the city is a member of a chaos cult.
Mm.
So there's a lot of going around and talking to people and maybe some light bribery and intimidation, some stuff like that.
Right.
And again, like what you just said, it's because combats can be so deadly and so final that a lot of times you only want to get involved in a combat if it's really the last thing. It's your only option. You're being attacked by cultists, you have to fight.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they just creep around and do whatever they're going to do.
Yep. So Takato mentioned here that Aliens is really good from Free League, and yeah,
I've heard Aliens was good.
because I got well,
I heard it was good, but mostly for like very short campaigns.
Oh yeah, I got Mothership, and the full Kickstarter of Mothership, and although they're delaying like hell releasing that damn thing, but I'm hoping that Mothership kind of captures that near gothic horror sci-fi kind of feel to it that Alien kind of has, and I'm hoping that that's a good fit for that kind of a genre.
Well, I hope it is for you.
Yeah, but if it's not, then I could definitely see picking up Aliens.
Well, I will tell you this. Coriolis does both of the things you guys are talking about very well.
Yeah, I skipped. I didn't do Coriolis at the time because I mean I love Conan 2D20. I think a brilliant system for that setting.
Well,
And then
Coriolis isn't 2 die 20; it's Free League.
I know. Oh, it's Free League. Oh, I thought it was Modiphius. Oh, Modiphius.
But in
Modiphius is
Coriolis, you've got
Modiphius.
like
That's their
monsters, you've
thing.
got the darkness between the stars,
Okay, all right. I
which
thought
is
Coriolis was
basically the
Modiphius.
devil. You've got like all these weird cultures that are, well, I shouldn't say weird, they're based mostly on like Arabic or Byzantine style
Mhm.
cultures, you know. So people are walking around a space station wearing, you know, the whole thing and maybe a turban or whatever.
Right.
Um, Slavery, drugs, cybernetics, demons, all of that stuff is in Coriolis.
Okay. I thought Coriolis was based on Modiphius's system. So
Mm-mm.
okay. Well, yeah. Sometimes they cross over and they cross
Yep.
sell and cross distribute, and that's what gets confusing. So that's why
Right.
I skipped. I was like, nah, I'm not interested because I looked at their like the John Carter of Mars. I don't like that system at all. I got to play test and everything, and I was like, nah, this is, you know, the movie sucked, and this game looks like it's not that great either. And I don't think they did a very good job with Star Trek either. So
I think the
I
problem with some of the 2 die 20 games is they went a little vague with the rules.
yeah.
Like if I have the Dune book still in the shrink wrap because they sent the PDF, and the rules as far as what your character can do are
Hmm.
so vague. And it's like you've got 3 stats and 3 skills, and it's like, and this is my whole character, I guess. That you
Right.
know, and you can pick traits, so you could be like your house blade master or something, but it was to me a major disappointment. But in Coriolis, it's a dice pool system. You roll a
Okay.
number of dice sixes, and as long as one of them comes up as a 6, you're good.
Okay.
And if it doesn't come up as a 6, you can push the roll, which
Right.
means you get a re-roll. However, if you fell on a pushed roll, then something really bad happens.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've seen that before. Yeah, I've seen that before with the you know, when you're pushing and you fail,
Right.
it becomes a really bad thing. Let's see.
Yeah, it can be really bad if
Yeah,
you fell that push roll, but
yeah.
um otherwise, yeah, I mean it's a great game with a great setting. Don't cross the streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Coriolis is a gorgeous book. Yeah, well, yeah, all of their stuff is gorgeous. Um, don't cross the streams. Yes. Oh, and Coriolis. I guess that's what he's talking about. Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm going to point out with, you know, what we're talking about here. You know, the premise of this, you know, of this live stream when players don't want to adventure.
Right.
Um, I think that um, GMs or you know DMs such as ourselves, you know, including those that are commenting in here, we're all running different systems. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have a much greater experience, I think, in running different systems than let's say modern GMs are concerned. And because of that, I think that our experience is that we have more tools in our toolbox to get players to engage because we can draw upon so many different game systems and we can bring in so many different other aspects from things one of the best things I did in my AD&D campaign was to port in the Castles and Crusades critical hit and fumble chart. That one page alone changed the entire aspect of my 2-year long campaign. And
It
I'm
would.
certainly glad I introduced that around like the 8th month of that campaign, and it just changed the way the players were playing, and it changed the amount of fun that we're having when we do have combats, and they never feel comfortable with minor challenges that have a lot of numbers behind them. It's like, so they're all level 8 and 9, and they go into an orc lair and they're fighting 20 orcs. Now, level 8 and 9 group, especially 7 of them that are level 8 and 9, they're like, oh, well, we'll steam throw these. I was like, yeah, but if you don't take them out really fast, they might get, 12 to 14 D20 rolls, at you, and they only need to roll 120, to deliver a critical hit. And that critical hit, if it's a 19 or a 20 again, is now going to be an instant death unless you make a Constitution check, and not just a Constitution check, a system shock check in AD&D. And so
Right.
now they've been lucky. I mean, they've survived these things like 21 times, but the frequency of them has been fairly consistent, that 20% of their time they've had to make these checks, right? So it's like, hey, there's a 1 in 5 chance that one of you could die, during any one adventure that there happened to be in, and that has a real gut check for them. It's like that realization that there's like a 1 in 20 chance that one of their characters could be killed instantly, is something that keeps them, I think, keeps them motivated to working well, and keeps them motivated to to keep on going out there and keep on fighting those fights as well. So let's see. No, I don't play 5e. And I actually don't even own it anymore. I gave it away. So I do not play 5e, and I've even turned down an invite. There was an opening in a game that I would love to play, because the guy is a great role player. And once I found out that he's running 5e, I was like, nah, I'm not interested anymore. I don't have the books anymore, and I just don't like the system. So he's like, oh, I understand, and that was it. But I would have loved to have played in it. I'm just not going to do it with 5e. I would spend too much time trying to maximize my well, not even min-maxing it. It's just too many layers in the action economy and everything, that to me it's just not something I want to do. No deaths in my campaign yet. I've had 3 different characters deep into negatives that got their attention. Lol. Yeah. I've had a few. I've had more from receiving more than 50% of their hit points in one hit. That's been a little.
Yeah, make that system shock roll.
And then they have to make a system shock roll. Yeah. Now, when they've gone into negatives, what I do is I reduce their constitution by that number of negatives. So let's say they're -5. Well, instead of having a 10 constitution, now they're making the system shock check as if they have a 5 constitution. So it kind of makes it a little bit harder. I had one player a long time ago took a gut shot, scimitar, full damage, so like 9 points of damage to him. But at the time, he was already injured, and I believe it took him to -6, and he only had a 40. He had like a 42% chance of surviving, and he rolled a 41. I was like, holy shit! It was like just one, 2 percentage points away, on a D100 roll, and he survived it. And then he was laid up for a whole week afterwards, just trying to be able to recover again. And then at -6, he just had permanent scarring at -6. So he didn't have any other residual things. But at like 7, you could lose a limb and that kind of thing. At 8, same thing. Lucky it wasn't a headshot, otherwise he would have been dead. So that's the other thing. It's like there's different layers that they have to go through based on their negatives as well.
Yeah, my brother, one of the first combats they got into, he ran up thinking he's going to be a badass on this mutant, and the mutant crit hit him and flinched his arm, and I had to look up the word flinched because I didn't know what it means. But basically, the mutant's blade hit him here and then went down along the bone, so that all that did this, and then knocked him down on the ground and stunned him, because anytime you take a critical hit in this game, you get knocked down and stunned for that round. Mm-hmm. And then part of the crit was he started bleeding, which means you lose a wound every time you bleed. And he can only be healed if he sees a surgeon. Mm-hmm. And then even if he sees a surgeon and gets it stitched up, if he gets hit in that arm again, within 4 weeks, it opens up again and starts bleeding. That was a lot of the D&D players' wake-up call right then, too. They're like, okay. I was like, in this game, if they roll anything that's a success that can be evenly divided by 10,
I'll be right back.
That's a crit. So... but it's not for everyone, Castles and Crusades is a great game. I highly recommend it. I ran it way back when it was first edition. It's still the same damn edition, and they just keep printing. There's just printings. And that's amazing, because if you played Castles and Crusades 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 15, I think, is when I played it. Maybe 10, you could pick it up and play it again now and not feel like, you don't know what you're doing, because really nothing changes. They just keep correcting like editing errors, and then they'll reprint the books, and you don't have to buy them. If you don't want to, don't. That's the thing with Castles and Crusades. I mean, you can just be like, nah, I'm not buying the new books, because all they did is fix some spelling errors anyway.
Right.
Which I think is such a huge advantage, is what I was saying.
I caught most of what you said. I'm sorry. I had to step away. I had a knock on the door, and it was the second round of cleaning lady. She thought that they didn't do my room already. So
I was just saying, one of the great things about Castles and Crusades is I ran it during first edition, but I know for a fact I could pick it up right now and run it, because they don't ever really change rules. They just fix editing, and if there's some kind of spelling mistake or some more streamlined way to say something, but the rules have not changed.
Yeah, from what I understand, only 3 things have changed. The encumbrance system around 2010 was tweaked by James Ward. Then the also around the same time, the monk and the barbarian were changed slightly from what they were, but you can essentially, as you said, you could have the first printing, or you could have the seventh printing of the player's handbook, and you're perfectly fine using either. So it's not the kind of a game system where going from one printing to the next is all that important. Just get the one that you have, and it'll probably last you for, a dozen years or so.
Yeah, just get whichever one's most current that you can lay hands on, and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah. That you can get. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I still have my first printing. It
yeah,
had the
I
paladin
have
on the
the one
cover with the
with
dragon in the
the brown
background.
cover with the gold. I don't know if those are the first printing. They're like the 2004. So they might be like the collector's ones. It's the brown cover with the gold inlay.
I don't have the
Um,
collector's one. I have the normal one. It's the brown,
yeah.
like beige cover, and it's got the knight on the cover.
Yes, yes, I know that one you're talking about too.
Yeah.
And then I think I have the first DM's guide, which was like '06 or '07, or Castle Keeper's Guide, I should say.
Yeah.
And I have that one. That's a green cover, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
I've got that one. And then I've
yeah.
got the city is of what's it called? I gotta look.
And then I have the new ones. I have the seventh and eighth printings of the others.
I bought all of the ones that had the homage covers just because I thought that was
Yes, I have all three homage covers.
the most awesome thing ever.
Yes.
And I thought it was really
You
cool of
play
them
Call of
to do
Cthulhu
that.
now. The game has that at times it's hard to motivate players to continue on with the story. Players to continue on with the story because it is so deadly to hit points and sanity. So Lionel, and also welcome. I know you've been here for a bit. I think that you got to sell it to them that that's the nature of the game. So I would do that right from the get go and tell them, listen, this game is about survival, not success, and it's about discovery. But in doing so, there's a very good chance that your character is going to either lose their mind or end up dead. And oftentimes, the best way to go about it is to learn what you can and then run like hell. And, that's how we played second edition when we were like 13 or 14 years old. And we totally bought into it that is the nature of the game. Now, again, that's one of the things with old school was that we were used to having characters, regardless of the systems that we were playing in. We're used to having characters die, and to play all of those games back then that were just much more brutal. I mean, AD&D more brutal than 5e. Call of Cthulhu second edition, just as an example, more brutal than 5e.
Star Frontiers. Your character might have a stamina of 40 and a laser rifle does like 10 die 10 damage.
Yeah. Star Frontiers or TSR's Conan, Bushido, all right, was another one that just did a lot of freaking damage and critical hits and all of that in there.
L5R.
Villains and Vigilantes was one of the few games where your superheroes could get killed. It was like holy cow, superheroes get killed in some of these games. So there was never there were very, very few. I mean, Twilight 2000 was you really expected to get maimed, in that game. It was like, having a leg blown off meant you're going home. It was like, oh, cool. My character's actually going home, but still alive. So there was just a different mindset in the old school where we didn't shy away from adventure. Kind of bring it back to that, since I know my family's on their way back from the beach. So I might have to wrap it up at any moment now. When players don't want to adventure, that's not something that we really encountered. And I'm going to say, as a whole, the old school did not have to deal with that kind of a thing. Even when we played every single day, my group was always raring to go as soon as we sat down. And we'd play for 4 hours, and we'd go as far through the adventure as we could. We're going to pick up tomorrow where we left off. And there was never a moment where we wanted to spend time in town doing that kind of thing. I'll be right back. Hold on.
See, my group, they are the kind of people who want to spend time in town, because I have a lot of female players and they like to ask everyone in town whatever their business is. And so they're just pretty much hardcore role players. But at the same time, this adventure I've been running, the Enemy Within campaign, it takes place in town, and the towns are as deadly as the wilderness. I mean, between all the thieves and cultists and giant ratmen that don't actually exist, and you better not tell anyone they do, or else that'll just be the end for you. This hanging out in Bogenhaven was not a safe place to be. And now they're on a boat on their way to Altdorf, and it's not going to be safe either. But it is what it is. I have been asked if running the campaign is railroady. Not really, because there's so many different points where the players can choose to do different things that COC definitely takes player buy-in to do it right. Yes, it definitely does. The siege system, if your players don't like the siege system, you're going to have issues. I've never ran into any players who didn't like it, but I assume they got to be out there. It's not a bad system, though. It's basically AD&D style roll under an attribute, except they kind of flipped it. But really, that's what it is. It's you pick your attributes that you want to be good at, and then when you try a skill that's based on that attribute, which is up to you and the DM to figure out, then you make the roll. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, man.
Okay, I'm going to have to log off. So thanks everyone for joining, and I will be back on Sunday for regular video recording and live streams and such from home, and not just off this thing. So I'll be able to give you a lot more heads up as to before the next live stream will go up. So everyone that joined, thanks for joining, and we'll put up these last few comments so everyone can see them. Let's see. I resisted playing Call of Cthulhu for a long time because I couldn't win. Yeah, there's survival is winning in that. So anyway, thanks for joining in, and everybody have a great afternoon. Take care.